Dear friends, we will begin shortly. Please settle down into your seat. If you need translation, please grab headphones from the back of the hall and an extension cord, and you can plug it into one of the green boxes on the floor. You could also sit outside where we will offer the English translation in the back of the hall.
Let us listen to 3 sounds of the bell together. Namo Shakyamuni Buddhaya. Dear community, today is the 18th of September in the year 2022. And today at Deer Park Monastery we have a ceremony called the ceremony of face-to-face for the monastics in the multifold community. I was told by Sister Kinyin this morning that after 2004, when Thai was here, present at Deer Park for the Rains Retreat, this is the first time when there are a number of monks and nuns here, a high number of monks and nuns here, as well as lay friends participating together. Lay friends practicing together, about 40, more than 40 people. This is a very fruitful Rains Retreat, and all of the Rains Retreats since 2004. This is something unexpected, that usually in the tradition of the Buddhist monasteries, the venerables, the leaders, or the founders of the temple, that once after they have passed away, there's a lot of unsteadiness in their monastery, and it takes about a few years for that monastery or that temple to re-establish itself. But even after Thai has passed away and the community continues on, the Plum Village Sangha continues on without any obstruction, and the activities and the participations has continued on, and the capacity of the young monks and nuns, Thai students, have continued to steer the boat of the right Dharma even stronger and stronger than before. And this is something that is very precious and is very rare in any Buddhist tradition that can have a strong foundation as this. Dear community, I am present here at Deer Park for already about, in a flash, it's been 20 years, and I follow along in the activities of the Sangha, especially the maturity of the young monks and nuns, and I am very proud of them, because they can continue the doctrine and the teachings of Thai and have been able to inherit from the right Dharma from the Buddha. So the maturity, the maturation, the young monks and nuns had made so many different traditions become envious. And the witness is that, and proof is that today, even though the Thai has almost passed away for almost a year, but Deer Park Monastery it seems as if nothing had happened, and we continue to go forth. And the term they use out in the world is they are going forth like a tank. There's nothing that can be obstructed. You just go forward, not backwards. And the thing that we see,
cũng hơi lo âu nữa là
that
thế
we are a
này.
bit worried is this,
Đó là mình cũng chứng kiến
that
rất
I
là
have
nhiều
witnessed a lot
thiền sinh trẻ
of
Mỹ
young lay
đến đây
friends,
tu rồi có
Americans, who have
các
come
vị đó
here to
không có thể duy
practice,
trì được
and they're not able
cái tâm Bồ đề
to
sâu sắc
maintain their
để có
deep,
thể
profound
gắn bó
bodhicitta,
đời sống tu
to
cả một đời.
to
Đây là
to
điều rất đáng
embrace
tiếc.
their practice
Mỗi
with their
lần
whole
mình thấy
life.
một người trẻ
And every
đến
single
rồi
time I
đi
see a
với
young
các vị
person who
học hỏi trong
comes
Bồ đề,
and leave, I feel a
tại
little
vì
bit
Phật pháp không
saddened.
thể duy trì
It's
được,
because the
không thể tồn
Dharma
tại được nếu chỉ
cannot
có những người già.
cannot
Tất nhiên những
continue
người
on
già
if there's
rất
only
là cần.
elderly people. Of course, the
Thế nhưng
elderly
mà
people
một
are needed,
hội chúng mà
but
già
a
quá
community that is
làm
too
cho người ta ngao
old
ngán.
can't
Ở
go
đời các
anywhere.
em nó đã
In
thấy
the
ông
world,
nội
there's a
ông bà
young
sợ chết rồi.
people, when they go out in
Vô
the world, they
chùa gặp
see
bà
their
nội ông bà
grandparents
nhiều quá.
and they are afraid, and they go into the temple, they see their
Tuy
grandparents, and
nhiên
they
trong
run
Pháp có
away.
cái quy luật ngược.
But there's this
Có những người
there's
già
this
nhưng mà
reverse
tâm thức rất kém.
psychology. But there are
Cái
some
điều này
elderly
nó
people,
chỉ
but
là
their
cái
state of
một
mind
khi
are
ta
very
có
young.
tu,
But this is nothing
tâm thức tràn đầy hỷ lạc,
new.
đời
If
sống
you
hồn nhiên
practice and
vị
you
tri
have a
có
lot of
nhiều,
joy and a lot
90
of
có vị
happiness,
vẫn là người
even
trẻ.
if you're 90 years old,
Thế
you
nhưng
will
một
still
tâm thức
be
không
young
tu,
at heart because of
30
your
tuổi,
aspiration. Even if
vẫn
you
là
are young
hình thù
and
trong
you're
đời,
30
như
and
công
you're
an
not
xã
happy,
sống.
then you feel you can also
Cho
look
nên
like a
quan trọng là
police
một
if
hội
you're
chúng
not practicing. So being in a
có sự
community
thực
of
tập,
practice with the
thì điều này
with the with the
cho phép
essence of the
người già
practice,
trẻ
it
đi
allows you,
vượt
whether
lên
young or
cái thời
old,
gian
in biological age,
và trở
through
thành
time, you will be
trụ sở,
all
không
youthful
phải là
and become a
hội chúng
place
đương
of
tiền,
refuge. But not only a
nhưng mà
place
nó
of
là chỗ trụ
refuge for
người
the
giúp
present
cho chúng ta.
community, but the place of
Đây là
refuge
cái
for the
đầu tiên mình
community
nghĩ
all across the
trong bài
world.
học
And
ASEAN.
this is something that you can learn.
Các vị
Not
xuất gia,
someone
các
from
vị
far.
nhìn sư
Even
ông trong
if you
bài
look
học
at
này.
Thai, as
Ông
monastics,
cụ
as
có từ
practitioners, look
80,
at Thai.
90.
Thai can be 80 years old,
Thế
90
nhưng mà
years
một vị
old.
thiền sư
But
thì cái tâm
a
hồn vẫn
practitioner
trẻ,
is
có
he's
thể
a
ngồi
Zen
với
master.
người trẻ,
He can sit with
có
young
thể chia
people.
sẻ với
He
người
can
trẻ,
share with young
có
people.
thể dạy với
He's
người
always
trẻ.
young at heart,
Do vậy
and he
cho
can
nên cái
teach
điều
young
rất
people.
cần là
And so
người
what
trẻ
we
chúng ta.
need is people to come to you.
Cái quan trọng là
And the
giữ
most
được họ cùng
important thing
không,
is
chứ
that
còn
is
không phải
when you
là
can
cái
hold
niềm
them
vui
and
khi
nourish
đến
them.
đất
It's
đông
not
chúng
just to
ta
come when there's a
đã có
lot of
thể
people
hứng
and
khởi
we
được
have
cái sự
fun,
hưng thịnh.
that you
Đây
can
là
see the
điều đầu tiên
prosperity.
mình nghĩ
But this is the first thing
trong
that
cái
I
ngày
think
đầu
on the
của cái giới
first
an
day
cư.
of the rains retreat.
Cái niềm vui của nhiều
The
người đến
joy
tu tập
of a lot of people
nhắc nhở
coming to
chung
practice
đây với
is
các
that
vị
remind all of us is
cùng
that
đóng góp một bàn
we can
tay
contribute
xây dựng
together,
được
put in a
cái lòng
hand
tu.
in building the
Rất
stream
nhiều
of
công
practice.
phu mà sư ông
There's
đã gầy dựng để
all of
lại cho chúng
the
ta.
hard work that Thai has offered us, the fruit of his hard work
Điều
Thai
thứ
has
hai
given
đáng
us.
nói nơi
And the
đây đó
second thing
là
that I
có
would like
những
to
phương
share
pháp
with you,
thiền.
there are Dharma doors to
Nó đã
practice.
đi ngang qua thời gian
And these
cái
Dharma
26
doors
thế
have
kỷ.
gone through 26
Thế nhưng
centuries.
so ra hôm
But
nay nó vẫn còn mới
today
nha.
is still very new, even
Đó là phương
today.
pháp
And
thiền
that
với
is the
niệm xứ của Đức
practice
Thích
of
Phước
the
Tịnh.
Four Establishments of Mindfulness that the Buddha has taught.
Tiếp hai là chúng ta
And
dù
second
có
of all
học,
is that even
dù
if you
có
have learned
nghe
and
chính
studied so much,
lời của
if
sư
you
ông dạy
heard
cho,
directly from
thế nhưng mà cái
Thai,
niềm tin chúng ta đối với
and
pháp hành
but
trì
the
hành nó vẫn
faith
thiếu.
in your practice is still not
Do vậy cho
stable.
nên mình
And
cứ
so
tiếp xúc mỗi
therefore
một
that
người
you to be in
Phật tử
touch with your lay
và một số
practitioners
người đã đi
or with the
tu.
practitioners who are
Họ cứ
monastic
than thở
practitioners,
rằng
and
điều
they
này
complain and
khổ
they say
đau,
that, oh, suffering,
là buồn tuổi,
despair,
là thất vọng,
uh,
là lo
grief,
lắng.
worry, anxiety, and I'm surprised
Tại vì những điều
because
này
all of these things,
nó không được phép có mặt.
they
Con
are
người
not
biết tu
allowed
tập.
to be present in the
Người
in the
biết tu tập
practitioners.
thực
A
sự
practitioner,
không
a
có
true
chút
practitioner
thì giờ
will
rảnh
not
để cho
have
những thứ
free
vớ vẩn
time
đó
for
dính
those
vào tâm thức nhé.
unnecessary
Này
things to be
buồn này,
attached
vui
to
này,
their
hờn
mind:
này,
sadness, anger,
mình ganh tị,
despair,
lo,
jealousy,
này tâm thức
hatred,
tràn đầy u
and
uất,
the mind
không
full
được
of
mặt.
darkness
Đừng
shouldn't be
nói
there,
là
let alone.
cái chuyện là tâm
Let
thức mình
alone then
tràn
your
đầy
mind
bất
full
an,
of
trầm
unease,
cảm,
despair, and grief and
tràn đầy nỗi
sorrow,
niềm thất vọng.
and
Ví dụ như
all
chuyện
despair.
này nó vô
This
cùng
is,
phi lý.
it doesn't make sense.
Nếu anh
If
thực
you
sự
are truly
chán cái nỗi khổ trần thế,
despise the world, and despise your mind is full of worry and anxiety. You just need to go into one Dharma of the practice is to establish yourself in mindfulness. Then you have the capacity to elevate your life and bring about more joy and happiness in your life, and to allow your heart to be filled with the right Dharma and not with suffering and despair. So anything that carries the negativity into your heart is unwholesome. Sadness is unwholesome. Worry is unwholesome. Unease is unwholesome. You are critical and judging of others is unwholesome. Worries and anxiety is unwholesome. And all of these things is eliminated and transformed when you have the capacity to practice. And so therefore the Buddha, in the beginning, he started off in the sutra of the Four Establishments of Mindfulness. He said, this is the only way that can bring people, living beings, to the place of well-being, to transcend all afflictions and suffering and despair, and to realize nirvana and right understanding. For one, to end suffering, and two, to realize understanding and to attain, become the Buddha or an Arahant. And the most important thing that the Buddha has taught us in the Madhya Agama, if you don't believe me, then you can open up the book and you can read it, is that there is no sutra that the Buddha does not start off like that. This is the only path that brings the living beings to a place of purity, transforming suffering and despair, and to realizing right understanding and attaining nirvana. That is the path of the Four Establishments of Mindfulness. In 100 and thousands of sutras, there is no introductory words as such. So if you read the whole collection of the Buddhist canon, you will see that proof. And I will not explain myself, and it is all there. From this point, you can recognize that this is the path that thousands of saints have practiced and holy beings have practiced to realize happiness and peace in the present moment, and to attain the fruit of no birth and no death, and attain the fruit of Arahashit. The Buddha in the past has also practiced the Four Establishments of Mindfulness. The Arahats have practiced this. The holy beings have practiced this. Even the Zen masters in Thailand, in Sri Lanka, Laos, Cambodia, Vietnam have all practiced the Four Establishments of Mindfulness. All the Zen masters of our time, creating the path of practice, leading people in the practice of transformation and healing, like Thai and other Zen masters have came from this foundation. So therefore, the first definition is, first of all, this is the practice, the oldest practice, as well as the newest practice, because in the past until now, there is no other path that goes into the direct path into going to the fruit of arahantship without going through this door. That's why the Buddha said it is the sole practice. The sole practice, it also means is that there is no other practice other than the practice that the Buddha that can help you to end your suffering and despair and to attain right understanding and nirvana other than the Four Establishments of Mindfulness. The third point is there's no other path, there's no other tradition that can develop the practice as easy and as simply, directly for you to taste the right Dharma like this path. The fourth point is this doesn't take you anywhere else. It doesn't take you onto the wrong path. It doesn't take you onto the unwholesome path. There's only one path in one place that it will take you to, lead you to, is the realization of perfect understanding and the attainment of nirvana. But it sort of seems that we just learn it and we learn it, but we don't believe it. The proof is that occasionally I can hear that, oh, I'm so sad. Oh, I suffer.
Hơi ngạc nhiên,
I'm surprised.
không biết tu cái kiểu gì ngộ.
I don't know how you are practicing.
Phật cái kiểu gì
How are you practicing the Dharma that you can always complain about suffering, about being sad, about being angry? You're not happy. It's kind of weird.
anh học
You learn the Dharma, or you learn the unwholesome things that may be, but if you learn the Buddha Dharma and you keep on complaining about being in despair and in sadness, learning the Buddha Dharma, but your face is so cold and so rigid. This is the wrong way. The joy and happiness of the practice comes when you're able to dwell in the
không
practice.
cần nhiều,
You don't need much.
chỉ cần mình
You
làm
just
việc,
need to do one thing.
chú tâm
Is to
vào một
pay
pháp
attention
đơn giản
to
như
one
vậy,
Dharma. It is
là
to
bạn
contemplate
có
the
thể
body in the body, and you can realize peace and joy right away.
và cái từ rất là
And
giản
then
dị
the
đó là
term
chú
that is
niệm.
very simple is that to pay attention, be mindful. It means there's 4 points that you should recognize. Is that the first definition of being mindful is
Đó là hiểu biết rõ
to
ràng
understand clearly
từng cái hoạt động của
every
cơ thể, của
action
cơ thể
of
mình
your
là thế
body.
nào.
That is called being
Rồi thế nào
mindful.
hiểu biết rõ
How
ràng
can you
từng hoạt động của
understand
cơ thể?
clearly each function of your body?
Các vị dùng con mắt
If you
tâm của các vị
use
nhìn
the
vào
eye
cơ
of your
thể,
mind
các
to
vị
look
sẽ
into
nhận
your
ra
body, to
từ
recognize
cái
that
đầu tới
from
chân,
your head to your feet,
nó có những cảm giác
there
rõ
are
ràng.
certain feelings
Từng dùng thở thịt
for
của
you,
ta, nó
that
có
you
chậm
can
lại
use
làm
your
sao,
breath,
mắt của
that
ta nhen
your
nhắm lại
eyes,
làm
how they
sao,
blink,
miệng của ta nói
your
làm
mouth,
sao,
how they speak,
đầu ta nghiêng qua nghiêng về
your
làm
head,
sao,
whether it
tay
leans
chân
or
đang co duỗi ra
tilts,
làm sao.
and your hands moving.
Gọi là
And being
chú
aware of
niệm
all of that
về thân.
is just paying
Đây
attention
là
to
niệm
the
thân.
body, mindful of the body.
Đơn giản, một
As
phương pháp
simple
ngắn
as
như
one
vậy,
practice,
gọn như
as
vậy,
that,
dễ
as
dàng như
simple
vậy,
as
quý vị
that,
thấy
as
rằng
easy as that. And you can
không
see
có cơ
there
hội
is
cho
no
lo âu,
other
buồn phiền,
opportunity for
giận dữ,
worries and
căm tức, xấu
anxiety,
hổ, oán hận.
hatred and anger to
Tại
give
sao?
rise. Why?
Tâm anh nó chỉ
Because
làm
your
một
mind
lúc
is
một
only
việc thôi chứ
doing
đâu
can
làm
only
nhiều.
do one thing at a time. It
Chú
cannot
niệm vào
multitask.
thân thì nó
It can only
không
pay
có chút
attention
gì
to the
giận
body.
dữ để nó
Then
chú
there's
niệm
no
cả.
extra time
Cái
for
việc
it
mà
to pay
A
attention
và B,
to Mr.
trẻ
A,
em,
Mr.
không
B,
hay là
whether she's
vợ.
beautiful or ugly
Cái
or
chuyện của
good
người
or
ta
bad.
xấu hay đẹp,
That whether they're
giỏi hay
beautiful
dốt,
or ugly,
chuyện
wonderful
của
or
người ta chi
or
thân cho
bad, it has no relationship to your body.
cái chuyện của người ta dễ
And so
thương,
they're,
không dễ thương,
whether they are
mặt áo
kind
đỏ,
or
áo
unkind,
đỏ,
that's
mà
their
tâm lý
business. Has nothing to do with you. Why do you have to sit there and
khởi
judge
một cái
them
tâm
and then
rất
give
là
rise
dịu,
to a mind that
ghét
you're
thương,
uncomfortable
thưa các
and
vị,
you hate and you
ngay một
dislike
bước chân
them?
bản ban
So in the
đầu
very
mình
first
được
basic practice, if what you
các
can
vị có
do,
loại
if
trừ
you
được
can
cái
do
tâm
that, you
rất
can
là dịu,
eliminate the
nó
mind
khó ưa.
of afflictions in yourself.
Đó là
And that is
giản dị nhất.
the most basic
chú
practice.
niệm đến
When
thân.
you're paying attention to your mind,
Bước thứ
to your
hai,
body, the second
rộng
step
hơn.
is that much
Đó
on
là
a
chú niệm
wider scale,
bốn uy nghi.
that you can be aware of the four fine manners. If walking, knowing that you're walking, sitting, know you're sitting, lying down, knowing that you're lying down, eating, know that you're eating, and speaking, know that you are speaking. A person, a monastic,
Một thầy, một sư
a monk
cô mà
or a
không
nun,
có khả năng làm điều này,
if you do not
đi
have the
mà
capacity to do this, then you will walk noisily.
đứng không yên,
You
ngồi
cannot
không yên,
stand
ăn không
still,
yên, nói
eat
không yên,
still, or
uống
speak
một cốc
still,
nước,
or
uống
when
một
you
bình
drink a
đá.
cup of water and
Cái
you
sự
don't have that
bất
peace.
cập,
And
cái
then
sự
you,
vội vàng,
that rush, that
thô
hurriedness,
tháo,
that
mất uy
coarseness,
nghi.
and the
Đấy
lack
là
of
tâm của
fine
ta
manners,
hiện biểu hiện.
because your mind is not at peace.
Ngang đây, thưa
And
các
then
vị,
it
ta
will
đã
reveal
không
itself,
có
and
điều
here in
không
itself
các
you can see
người
that you don't
có khả
have
năng
the
làm niềm
capacity
cảm hứng để
to
ta
be
đến mình
an
cho thiền.
inspiration for others
Hay
who
là
come to practice. On the other
có
hand,
một chút công
if
phu
you
thế
have
này,
a little bit of practice as this,
toàn thân của
if
một
your
vị thầy
whole
đó, một sư
body
cô đó,
of
thưa
that
các
monk
vị,
or a nun,
an bình,
they are
tĩnh tại,
peaceful,
đầy trí tuệ,
present,
tĩnh bày,
and
phong
there,
độ,
they are
đầy bình
present
an,
there, full of
không
peace
cần làm gì
and
nhiều,
solidity. They don't
chỉ
need to
cần
do
ngồi,
much.
đứng,
They just
nói,
need to
cười,
sit,
đi,
stand,
tới đi, lui,
walk,
ăn ngủ,
back and
vân
forth,
vân, thưa các
sleep,
vị,
lie down, and speak,
đã tỏa sáng được
etc.,
cái hương
etc.
vị
It's
của
enough
sự
to
bình an,
radiate
tĩnh tại.
the fragrance of peace and solidity to give
Tôi thắc mắc,
inspiration and
anh có
aspiration
thể
for
làm
others.
10.000
In another
bài
way,
thiền hay.
you can give 10,000 Dharma talks,
Thế nhưng nhìn anh
wonderful
đi,
Dharma talks, but looking
cái
at the
nói
way
anh
that you
cười,
walk, or the way
cái
that you
mặt mày
smile,
của anh nó
or
tràn đầy
speak,
u
or
ám
that
thì
your
thưa
face
các vị,
is not
những bài
as
pháp của
fresh,
anh
then your
có
Dharma,
sạch,
it has no
không giá trị
meaning,
gì giúp
it has
mình,
no
là không
quality,
có niềm
no
cảm hứng,
essence, and
càng không có niềm
they're
tin
not able to give
với
rise to their
công việc anh,
aspiration, not only
phương
with
pháp hành
you,
trì của Phật.
But even with the practice of the teachings of the Dharma, it's only with one establishment of mindfulness, is contemplation of the body in the body, you're able to do a wonderful thing. Is that as the practitioner, as the lay practitioner, that you are present and at peace with solidity, and you're able to create yourself a balance of your body and mind. And your mind is not wandering around. You are present right here and right now. It is able to sustain the energy of your mindfulness and your body, and it brings you peace. And you become aware of your body to take care of your health. And these two things of being present is able to prolong your lifespan to live 100, 120 years. So on this planet, there are countries and there's areas, and some people, when they come and they visit the cemetery and they are surprised, there's a person on their tombstone that they lived up to 90 years, but at the bottom they said this person died at a very young age, and he is very young, 90, and that's young. But in reality, if they read every single tombstone, that they all say that there are 150, 90 years is young. And they haven't been able to read seniority yet. This is not the senior citizen yet. So then if they talk to the people in the village and they ask, what was this village? What did they eat? How did they live that they can live as an average of 150? In the meanwhile, the world hopes to live to 90, and that is something that is the greatest happiness. But it turns out that the people in that village, or that they live more than 150 is an average. And they heard is that when they asked and they discovered that they lived with nature more than inside their home. Second of all, it seems like all of the people in that village, they are full of hospitality, and whomever that hospitality, whether he's a thief or somebody familiar, it doesn't matter. When they come and they see the people, they see them as their friends. They're full of joy, very hospitable, and it means their heart is always open. And their life is very harmonious. And it seems that they didn't have any psychotherapists in that area. In the U.S., if we brought any psychotherapist to that village, they will be out of work. And there are no lawyers or anything or court. They just can resolve all conflicts with a smile. And they discovered that because they live a long life and they have longevity and they don't have disease and sickness, because their life is full of joy. Every morning they just do one thing, and they stand there and just be grateful for the sunrise, and then in the evening they all sit together and watch the sunset and to thank the sun for a wonderful night, and preparing themselves to have a peaceful night. And they're always filled with gratitude, so that we come back to ourselves, what we're speaking about, the contemplation of the body in the body. The most simplest thing is that when you just look at your own body, whether it's standing, sitting, walking, whether it's young and healthy and strong, that it is a wonderful type of machinery on this planet. Even if no matter how civilized you are, but if there are 10,000 years, you cannot even create a robot that is perfect as your own body. This perfection is it cries when you mistreat it. It's perfect because there is the balance. When you go into your sleep, your body knows how to bring balance to itself to get rest. And the kind of machinery, this body, is so wonderful. Sometimes when you have a little bit of practice of contemplating the body in the body, then you're able to see like the knobs and knots that are sort of out of place, and you can adjust it. And if you are aware of your body and you have a foundation of practice, you can easily recognize your body, and you can be aware of what your body is lacking, what your body needs, and you know what your body needs. And the most important thing is that the energy of your everyday life you waste it so much in worries, meaningless worries and anxiety, in the hatred and loving and not making enough money. But if you have the guts to that you have the guts, you carry on your despair for one day after day, month after month, and year after year. But if you look into your own life, there's no being that has had a perfect body like the human body, but there's also no other being that is as destructive as a human being. The destructive as in the world of war, of greed, of hatred, of anger, that is on the outside. But let alone that is being destructive is that it can self-destruct their own body by despair and hatred and anger from inside and all of inside and all around us. It's very destructive, but you can forgive that. And all of the things that happen around us, we can forgive. But then the most pitiful thing is that we also receive it and we hold on to it. This anger, despair, anger inside of us is filled in our heart like a hard drive, so that occasionally you just click on that file to just look at it again and to just as if you're enjoying a meal, and that nibble at it, like. But if it was it's a supplement that can enjoy and elevate your life, but you just nibble on to your anger, your hatred, you're holding on these grudges, and to just slowly kill yourself. That is the most craziest thing of humanity. But in the world, we do that non-stop. And so therefore, a method, a practice of contemplating the body in the body. You don't have time to do these meaningless things. You don't have time to do anything else other than just paying attention to your body. And whether it's standing, sitting, walking, lying down, tilting your head, or just straighten out your legs or stretching. The Buddha has taught us in the sutra that if a bhikshu knows how to truly practice, that person will know how to do that. When he bends over, he knows he's bending. When he looks up, he knows that. When he opens his palms, he knows he opened his palms. When he's spitting or chewing, swallowing, lying down, stepping, he knows clearly that this is a monk who knows how to be contemplative in the body. Anybody who knows how to contemplate the body in the body can realize the perfect understanding. Their body become as peace, and they can attain peace and joy in the present moment, and they can eliminate all the afflictions and sorrow. And anyone who knows how to contemplate the body, their wisdom will come right away, and they don't need to learn about the 10-30 sutras year after year to be proud that I have such and such a PhD. You don't need that. What PhD? What PhD? The position, knowledge, understanding. When your afflictions are full there and you do not know that you have affliction, when you are struggling in this anger and hatred in yourself, and you do not know from the foundation of your anger and hatred inside of you, and no matter how much you learn, your affliction is still there, and it tortures you, and it destroys you, and you are still called a person without wisdom. You are still a person of ignorance. And another term of ignorance, you know what it is stupidity. But if I say, you're still stupid, then people will go after me. But because you are intelligent. But the truth is that no matter how much you learn, but if your affliction is still there, you have the right to destroy yourself and others, then that is truly ignorance. And so therefore, right in the contemplation of the body, the Buddha has taught to realize perfect understanding, perfect wisdom is that. It means that every affliction, sadness, sorrow, and despair in your mind, when it arises in you, you know. And this is to say that every single time you go into the practice of contemplating the body in the body, then all of your feelings, your thoughts, your emotions, you won't be able to recognize it. No, you will be. Anyone who has the capacity to contemplate their body diligently and to be aware of each movement of their body, they will be able to recognize the sadness, joy, worry, anxiety, the coming and going of their emotions, and they're able to contemplate, observe their body clearly, as if they are observing an apple in their palm. They can also observe their emotions that are arising inside of them naturally. And so, therefore, that all you need to have one way of practicing that body in the body, then you can realize right wisdom. And in the end, dear community, the path of practice the Buddha has defined it as come to the wisdom of the wise ones. It means that therefore that if you have faith in the right Dharma, you learn the right Dharma. And the one thing is that you're not learning a lot of sutras. It's not about the number of sutras you learn. It's a matter of whether you apply it. And the matter of applying it only happens to two types of people. One, the type of person who is almost dying. But because when you're almost dying, then you start to practice because you're almost out of time. So then if you're worried about that, it's too late. The death is creeping up at you. And so then the fear is there, the fear that you're about to die, because it goes together with sickness and old age. And then your spirit is low and weak. So when your death comes, the only thing that you can do is you have fear and anxiety, and with your own habit like that, then it's too late to practice. There's only just to let go and to wait until your next life may, and who knows whether you're going to meet the Dharma next year. That is the first. Those people who are afraid and who are about to die, they try to go into the practice and wholeheartedly practice as much as they can. And the second type of people is that this is the people who had profound depth. They can take hold of their own practice. They don't need to try to die, but they are afraid of death. So therefore, they said, "Oh, my father, my mother, my loved one, my family, my friends." Younger people be more beautiful than me. They have a stable career, and they all die in this COVID, and so they are afraid, and therefore they practice. And these type of people, it demands a very deep, profound understanding in order to practice. And if not, and in this world, there's so many illusions that can pull you away. There's so many things that are temptations for us. It's very difficult for you to practice. It's very difficult for you to dwell in the practice. And the term to dwell in the Dharma. It means that you learn with your passion as the person who's thirsty to practice, to want to transform your suffering and despair in this present moment, and not to be drowned in your suffering and hatred and despair. You're right in this life. You don't want to be a squash or a pumpkin or just a leaf floating down and to disappear completely. And then you put all of your time and your passion and your energy into the practice. The energy that you have in this life, you should save it to do one thing, is to dwell in the Dharma of practice. And this is something can only happen to this one type of person. Don't think that you stay in the temple for a long time and you can practice. Don't think that you can wear the monk's robes or the nun's robe, that you have a lot of conditions. No. Everything will fade. One day at the temple, 2 days at the temple, you have the condition, the most passion that you get to become a monastic to practice. But you live year after year and it starts to fade away. And so don't believe that 20 years, 30 years that you practice more than others. whether or not you're high, better than others, and whether or not your aspiration, your bodhicitta is still burning, it's not the numbers of years that you have. It's only the person who's afraid of birth and death, who is weary of despair, who doesn't want to drown in the realm of birth and death, coming and going. Those will have to bring the right Dharma into the practice. If not, then we're all the same. We just live meaninglessly. We come to the temple to do work, practice for 3 months, and we go home. It's just like a summer vacation, and that's it. And it means nothing at all. If you're not afraid of, I'm sorry if I hurt you, but I'm just gonna share that's that. But maybe there's thousands of people who come to the practice, and we can only select a few who stay. And this is the reality of our life. It is because you do not have a true need to go into the path of the holy ones. There are thousands of monastics. I'm not about lay friends. I'm about thousands of monastics. But that you go fulfilling the full life of the monastics and realizing nirvana and attaining great understanding, there's only a few. And so therefore, the opportunity for you to come to the Dharma, the opportunity for you to taste the right Dharma, to read the sutra, that is an opportunity of stepping in through the door, stepping through the threshold. It's nothing else, just stepping through the threshold of the Dharma. And in order to go through the house, to push in that desire, the thirst to learn and to apply it into your everyday life. It's the second step. The third step is every second, every millisecond, every moment, whether you're sitting, standing, walking, lying down, eating, smiling, that you are not forgetting to paying attention to your body. You're always observing your body. This is the most basic step in order to realize perfect understanding and perfect wisdom. If you're not able to step through this third threshold, then you remember you're always forgetful. Then occasionally you remember to practice a little bit, but the afflictions are still there. And one life, it means nothing. In the end, it just falls into impermanence, and then you lose your life, and you wait for another opportunity to practice. And it's very difficult for that. So if I were you, if you are intelligent, the contemplating the body, and the body is a door that you can go through to bring about peace and happiness, transformation and healing, and realize perfect understanding. Contemplating the body, and the body is something that you can taste the happiness and joy right here and right now, and you can eliminate your suffering and despair to allow your body to be at peace and joy. To applying this one practice, a practitioner or lay practitioner, a multifold community will have the capacity to taste happiness and joy and peace in this present moment. The Dharma body is not something that will be promised in the future when you're at your door in another realm. No, it is not going through that dark tunnel to find the light. It's not about the teachings of the Dharma. You step straight into the door of the light. The moment you practice is the moment you attain understanding and you end afflictions and sorrow right away. At the moment you practice, you're able to taste nirvana. And at the end, then you should ask yourself that when you come, why are you here? Just for fun? To let time pass by? To find a few Dharma friends? And just to forget about everything else so that you're less bored. But so what's the reason? Why do you have to come up to the monastery for and the practice centers for? Why did you have to put out 3 months of your life to come here? So I would like to remind you, lastly, is that the opportunity of gold is not easy to find. The opportunity to come to a practice center, to have days and months that are so important, and to bring your whole passion into practicing, this is it's a once in a lifetime opportunity because time flows. Once time flows, your passion, your thirst to practice may not even return to you. And maybe even sometimes next year, you are ill. Not alone next year, maybe once you leave the monastery grounds, the opportunity to come back is not there. So what can you do? So you should remember that one day when you are present in the monastery, one day that you are present to dwell peacefully in this retreat is a day of peace, happiness, and joy for those who are fortunate to be here for 3 months. And I hope that this rains retreat, with the number of the practice community of 44 lay friends who are here practicing together with us, that you will have this inspiration and aspiration from my sharing for your own life is to contemplate the body in the body. Observe your body when it's standing, sitting, lying down, speaking, leaning forward or leaning backwards, blinking, winking, or smiling, speaking. All of that, the gift of the gift that you can offer for yourself is from that is that the afflictions will not have the opportunity to give rise inside of you. If a moment that is empty, full, and then sadness and loneliness will fill its space. And you don't. If you practice contemplating the body in the body, and you can live with everyone, and you will not create any afflictions for anyone, and that no one and around you will make you sad or despair. And there's noting the fact that you don't have the time for you to pay attention to Mr. A or B or C or D or one who's kind, one who is not kind. That won't happen to a person who takes hold of the practice of the body in the body. So, in conclusion, I would like to read the sutra, the introduction words of the sutra of the Four Establishments of Mindfulness. This is the only path that brings about the peacefulness and joy for all living beings, to transcend suffering and despair, and to realize right understanding and nirvana. In all these different hundreds and sutras in the Madhya Agama, this is the first one sutra that has this introduction. In all of the Vipassana traditions in the past 26 years, there's no other practice other than the Four Establishments of Mindfulness. All Zen masters who have understand from Shariputra, all these afflictions, and then Angulimala, from even the queens like Gotami, and even Sudana. Anyone who is practicing just this one practice can realize a perfect understanding and attain the nirvana and arahantship. So we don't have enough wisdom like Shariputra, but we're not too bad, just like full of suffering and despair, like in the depths of society. We have more than enough condition, more than enough time, more than enough energy to become a saint in this life, to become a holy being. Whether it become a holy being or not, it's not a matter of becoming the Buddha. It doesn't really matter on the Buddha. It's about the friendship. It all depends on in your own heart. Your determination, your will, your passion, your aspiration. It is exactly 11 o'clock, so we will end here. It's enough. I think that when we rest, I think you're all happy, and I see you're smiling because I'm ending the Dharma talk. Every time we get to end early, it's a joy, isn't it?